welcome back. In this video, we're going to be going over meditation, what it is, different forms of it, its benefits, and its pitfalls. So, meditation is the practice of refocusing the mind. So, meditation has become a bit of a hot topic recently, trending, if you will. Most commonly seen and heard is probably yoga and mindfulness. And these two have really taken grip of the social movements and made their way into the mainstream. However, there are many different types of meditations that you can get into. And yoga in and of itself has a whole array of different types of meditations. Right? There's a pranayama practice, which is a breath meditation. There's yoga nidra, which is more like a dream meditation. There's vinyasa and ashtanga, which are breath and movement meditations. Mindfulness is the practice of coming back to the breath in a non-judgmental way, right? And so what happens when we come back to the breath is that we come back to the present moment. And it's this act of finding the middle path. And I shouldn't say an act, more like a practice of finding this middle path so that as we move through life and we get thrown from one end of the spectrum to the other end of the spectrum with all these different circumstances and stressors, as mindful beings, we can come back into center and say, here I am grounded, I am alive, I am breathing, and it's all going to be okay. It helps to center ourselves. A couple of different things happen when we meditate. And I want to specify that meditating, because it can be done in so many different facets, it has different levels to it. And this is kind of where the positives and the negatives start to show up in the way of, if you are new to the practice, it's very important for you to be listening to your body, because meditation can bring up a lot of gunk that lives within us, and it can cause more stress at times than help manage the stress. And so when we are doing different types of meditations, things like let's just say a movement meditation like running or doing a yoga practice or dancing, right? We might find a flow state, and that triggers alpha waves in our mind. And these alpha waves are representative of exactly that, of a flow state. It's that feeling of enjoying exactly what you're doing and feeling fluid, feeling aligned in your actions, in your task of the day. So that can show up through many different acts: writing, painting, dancing, anything that drops you into your hobby, and your vision becomes focused and blurry at the same time, and you're able to just move, right? That's that alpha state. We then move another layer deeper to the theta state, which is more of your stereotypical sort of, we're sitting in our meditation and we're dropping into that mindfulness, and we're breathing, and we're coming back to the breath, and we're letting the mind do its thing. And also we ourselves are focusing on the breath. And the mind does, what the mind's going to do. And whenever we realize that we have suddenly latched to one of the common symbols or analogies that is brought up in any kind of meditation practice, is letting our thoughts run past like trains or like clouds. So anytime we find ourselves attaching to one of these trains, we become aware of that and we come back to the breath. We detach from that thought. And that's that practice of mindfulness. And when we drop into that space and we're able to really focus on what's going on with the breath and the body, we drop into a theta state. And it's this deeply restful, rejuvenating, refocusing, de-stressing experience that so many people cling to meditation for. And then there's the deepest state, which is our delta state, which is most often found during sleep and in our dream state, and can also be done and be accessed through deep layers of meditation and stillness. Now, this can show up in many different places. We can access this dream-like experience, this lucidity, in different forms of yoga, in pranayama, breath work. You can find that just sitting and finding a mantra to go over in your mind over and over again. And everybody's going to be a little bit different. But ultimately, the goal of meditation is to help calm ourselves and access these higher levels of vibration, to help re-regulate so that when we come back into the real world, we're like, we've got this. Now, I mentioned briefly that sometimes dropping into a deep meditation could cause more harm than good. And I say that because it's true, and because so often we are recommended these things, this tool, this meditation tool, to treat things like anxiety and depression. And yet we haven't come into our bodies, we haven't been grounded into our bodies previously to be able to manage what might come up from our body when we drop into those layers of meditation. And so I just want to forewarn you, if this is your first soiree into meditating, take it easy and be gentle with yourself, and also be real with yourself. If you're sitting there and you're dropping into, the body scan meditation and a lot starts showing up, take a moment with yourself, right? It's also very common that we drop into a somatic meditation, something like the body scan. And in the moment, maybe nothing shows up, but 2 days from now, we have a big emotional day, right? That's your body trying to metabolize everything that was just shaken in terms of the frequency, because we can't live in two different frequencies. We can't have a body that's traumatized, deep in anxiety, and have a mind or have a soul, an inner being that is tapped in to the higher self, right? And I shouldn't say we can't. People do that all the time. People live like that constantly, right? But once we start accessing that higher state and we start consciously bringing ourselves into that space, this other low energy frequency, this low vibration is going to be triggered. It's going to be stimulated. It's going to be brought up into question. And that can look like a lot of different things. It can look like having an emotional day. It can look like exhaustion. It can look like no appetite. It can look like chronic pain. And so just knowing that as we deepen our practice of embodiment and tap into things like breath work and meditation and movement meditations, it's so important to be listening to our bodies and honoring what it is that we need. And taking the time to process those things, right? So much of this is the act of slowing down, which is one of the greatest benefits of meditation, is that even if you just drop in for 10 minutes a day, you're dropping in for 10 minutes a day into maybe a stillness or into a flow state. And you're allowing yourself that opportunity to unearth whatever's coming up, whatever is stuck in the body. So I'm not saying that to scare you. I'm just saying that meditation has great benefit only after and when we start to be able to acknowledge that it is okay to get sad, and that it is okay to be anxious, and that it is okay to be exhausted in the healing process, and that it is human to do all of those things. And in that humanness, we will also begin to learn that none of that defines us. And so maybe the first time it happens, you need to take 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks off of coming back into meditation. But the more you show up for yourself in this way, and the more you allow yourself and give yourself permission to process and to feel and to rest, the shorter that window becomes, to the point of you might wake up in the morning and instantly be stressed out. And then because you've got this meditative, mindful practice, you're able to shift your mindset within an hour. And that's the power of meditation. So I hope that helps. I hope I didn't scare anybody. I want everybody to be excited about trying to meditate, right? And I'm excited to drop in a little bit deeper with you. So let's get to it.